Welcome everyone. This is the first of the a series of informational webinar that the organizers of the Data Science Hackathon put together to make sure that everyone understands what we're doing. And let me actually start by just posting the flyer that you've seen already. So this Data Science Hackathon is the third in the making. The previous two hackathons were done in year 2019 and 2000.
Hello? I'm sorry, can you swap displays? We can see your notes.
Oh, okay.
Display settings on the top.
Yeah, why don't I just make it like a screen two? Is it better?
For some reason that caused the content to be like, it looks like a cell phone to me. It's shrunk down.
Okay.
I don't know how better to describe it.
Yeah. Let me just
when you're in the presenter view and a slide in PowerPoint under display settings, it should say like swap display or something like that, and it should swap the screens for like if you have two screens attached. That's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah. I think that this is what happens when we come out of the home computer, and I have a work computer with dual monitors, and that's I'm not fully just restored. Yeah, just ready for coming back to work.
Yeah, but then when we're live, we somehow have to make it work.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see, slideshow. Is it better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the third year that we're doing this data science hackathon. And you registered and you may be curious and well, what the AI is. And some of you may have great skills already. Some of you may not have any clue how the AI could be applied to cancer research. It doesn't really matter. If you sign up and then hopefully through preparation up until the early August, you will be trained enough to know what are some of the tools available and some of the campus experts who may have ideas for you, or through just a literature reading, you come up with great ideas and then you'll be ready for the competition. We made everything easy, but it's one of the things that's really important is for you to go to the Hackathon website, which is at cancer.ubright.org. And also it's very important, if you haven't done so, go to the Slack channel, because a lot of the discussion, news, mentorship are gonna go over there. Okay. And I just want to start just with two additional slides to talk what is our hackathon all about. If you look up the dictionary, a hackathon is an event in which a large number of people meet to engage collaborative computer programming. For us, this does carry a timeline. So I think in August the 9th and the 10th, for 40 hours, because we actually started at 8 a.m. for only 40 hours over 2 days. We will select 120 participants that form teams, up to 25 teams. And we want you to do a little bit of competition. And this competition have the basic requirement. It must use some kind of an AI or data science tool, which seem to be easy if you actually just go out there, go to GitHub, and then many of the tools are out there. And then you have to use analysis-ready cancer data set. We want you to actually get existing data set. We will also prepare some data set from the Ubright environment to make it easy for you to get started. But anyways, you cannot produce a data set as you go. And then we want you to address either cancer research or oncology healthcare related problems. And why you should do this? Because there's cash awards at the end. The good news is today we have just got together, I think a pending confirmation is $8,000 in cash prizes. And well, the final award categories are still being figured out, but at least it will probably have first, second, and third prize with some special awards to be determined. And even if you're not here for the award, you're here for the training. I hope that that you can develop some prototype so that in your future job search, you can actually be proud of what you have accomplished. Or you come up with an idea for papers or grants, like what many teams last year at COVID-19 did. My last slide is want to advise you what makes a good hackathon experience. I think you definitely want to solve the right problem, right? This year, our theme is cancer. If you're solving problems related to cancer, even though the disease focus could be diabetes, you may want to put a spin on the cancer. And for example, what is the diabetes patients who are prone to cancer? And that would actually qualify. And prepare your data set can be done ahead of the hackathon. So don't wait until the hackathon starts to get your data ready. We have people here on call, the Informatic Institute. We're all here to listen. So enter your intended data set into the Airtable so we can actually have a discussion whether that could be locally cached and for your benefit. Also form teams. The teams are not necessarily best if you all have IT people. And you need the people with the scientific acumen so that they know which problems are more important and how to analyze the data to make it really relevant to the future cancer care or cancer research. Come here with a little bit of an attitude of learning. Nobody, even including myself, have all the knowledge. So learn some new AI tools. I'm gonna actually give seminar on AI for cancer, and then there will be lots of events. So make sure you take advantage of all of that and use all the help that you can, organizers and mentors, and we're gonna have mentors from the Cancer Center, and use Research IT, use Google, and have fun. Thank you. Amy, back to you.
Yeah, thanks. Let me just, all right, thanks for that great introduction. Help kick off this event. And so I'm just going to give a quick, go into a little bit more detail about some of the things that you talked about, and you know, also present some other important information for the hackathon. I'm going to go pretty quickly because I do want to leave some time for questions, and we have some things, a lot of things to cover. And
there is
yeah,
a
feel
question.
free to chat your questions.
There's a question in the chat. There's a question in the chat currently
we're gonna save questions for a little bit later, but I just want you to start thinking about your questions and putting them in there. Okay, so can everybody see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, so AI against cancer. This is a data science hackathon. Our logo, it has the you know, the genetic component, all the data, and also the ribbon, which is cancer. So the clinical aspect of it, we want to have the whole translational spectrum. So I'm going to give an overview, and then And they're going to talk about technical readiness, use of UAB electronic health record as a data source, and hopefully allow some time for questions. As Jake had mentioned, hackathon, intense collaboration of different expertise to advance some goal. And it's been in the literature documented in health and biomedical research. And so we want to follow this model. We've done this successfully. We want to continue. And so we're using UBright, which is our platform for infrastructure at UAB for accelerating data-intensive translational science. And then, so we want to empower teams. There's so many different interconnected groups, but if we're able to have a central repository, central place to be able to connect these resources, it's helpful. So we had an initial pilot project just to prove this hackathon could help, and so the source of data. So we had these pilot projects which were very successful, and we really appreciate our collaborators. And here's some here's some photos from that initial effort. That was live. That was before COVID. And then we published this work. And one of the things that came out of that work, the whole collaboration, was that the hackathon was a significant factor in the project's success. Unfortunately, we didn't do the hackathon until very late in the project as a way to sort of get us across the finish line. And some people thought that scheduling it earlier would have been more beneficial. So then came along the COVID puzzle, and we weren't able to meet in person. So we had a virtual hackathon, which was a great success. And some of the projects out of there became very successful, had been entered in national competitions and gotten funding and publications in the works. So we were very happy with this model. And then we did some surveys of the people who participated. We got good feedback from it. It was learning. It was a good learning experience working. And people really enjoyed it and wanted us to do it again in the future. So now cancer. So as we're sort of going to the, hopefully get into the post-COVID era and everybody's got COVID fatigue, we want to move into cancer, which is the second leading cause of death worldwide. 9.6 million deaths in 2018, causes 1 in 6 deaths, and $1.16 trillion estimated cost in the US in 2010. So we have, so this is you've already seen this, is kind of our flyer for this particular hackathon. So we have an extensive timeline of events, and we have broken out to whether you're a participant, a mentor, or a judge. We have different roles for different people. This is all on our website, which is the central place to go to for information and links. And then we have a calendar, and it has all staged to help people progress from starting out to finishing. So first thing you do is you register, and then especially for participants and judges, you register, and then also within the website, there's an area for you to submit your expertise profile, which is really important so we can help match you to other team members and projects, where you can also submit project ideas and prepare a data set and share that with everybody. And then the next stage, after you've sort of gotten settled, is to form a team. So you may already have a team already, that's fine. You can have that team, or maybe you would like to invite someone with a different set of expertise, or you're by yourself and you want to form a new team. So you can do that. We have networking events which are virtual meeting places and virtual kind of cocktail parties for people to discuss their ideas and meet. And finally, then if you go to the second column to the right side, so then we have some training boot camps to help people learn and get acclimated, get on the same page. So we have some webinars about UBright, about AI, and also Dr. Chen had mentioned he's going to give a lecture about the advances in the use of AI in cancer. And then finally, we had all this pre-game show stuff. And so stage 5, we attend a hackathon. So there's a last check of technical readiness, make sure you have everything in place, all the right access, data, and logins and everything. And then actually attend a hackathon, which is 2 full days. And then everybody, and then we'll close everything so that everything will be frozen as hopefully as you want it finalized. And then we'll have judges will review the presentations that you give. There'll be the showcase where everybody presents all their work, and then from those we will select awards, and then we'll have an award a closing ceremony and presentation of awards. So then that will be in August 20th. So it's approximately a 2-month process. So then, you go to our website and it has links to this Airtable where you enter your information, your expertise profile, what kind of role and position you have to help us match people. Networking is very important for so that we can meet and discuss things. And also this is the Slack channel is where we keep you up to date on any developments and news and events and things if you need some help. So this is our Slack channel. We have a lot of events scheduled, so we hope you can attend a lot of these events. The first one is the event that you're at right now, and then we have events where you can discuss projects and network with others. And we've got the boot camps and lectures, final readiness, actual hackathon itself, the showcase, and closing ceremony. Now, I'll pause and see if there's any questions, or we can answer some of the questions in there while we transition to Jalai, who's going to talk about technical readiness technology. Okay, so some of the questions here. All right, so in the meantime, okay, how many persons can form a team minimum? And you don't have to have a team. Last year, there were some people who decided to even do things on their own or individually, but we think it's more meaningful to have it as a hackathon. But some people thought having this time set aside. So we recommend at least 2 to 3 people, and generally maximum of 5. But I think some people go to 6. I think if you get too big, then it's not as conducive to collaboration. But so we don't like enforce a maximum, but we at least 2 people. We want to highlight the whole team science aspect of it. That's why we're doing this. And anybody else can jump in and if I give an incomplete or incorrect answer. Restriction in type of programming language used, we would say you use what you feel like you need to use, and anything is good. If it works, it helps move things forward, then I say go for it. So the idea is, let's see, okay, if you want to incorporate a pre-existing tool or combination of tools into a script, you could. Maybe it might be a case-by-case basis. If you take an existing technology or methodology and then you're applying it in a new way, or you're enhancing it some way, that is an innovation. So I think that would be case by case. I mean, we wouldn't want you just to take something you've already done before and just go, okay, this is a great project, and then you make that your project and you kind of pretend that you were working on the whole. We actually discourage that. That's not the purpose of the hackathon. We do have people sign a statement attesting that they've done this work during the period of the hackathon. Okay, no restriction in programming language. Okay, you don't need to use our data sets. We encourage it, but we do have a lot of good sources, and then also Matt Wyatt's going to talk a little bit about using the EHR UAB as a data source. Okay, yeah, we will have individual Zooms, and hopefully you've already discussed it before the hackathon. We don't want you to totally start from scratch, so you kind of have an idea of what you're going to do and how you're going to spend your time and who's going to do what. So yes, you will have. What we've done in the past is we've had one main Zoom, and we've had a whole bunch of breakout rooms, and that actually worked pretty well. We found out that we had to give everybody the ability to navigate between the different rooms. Otherwise, people are stuck and waiting for the host, that was me, to assign people. And also, people like to be able to float around to different rooms, and the mentors too can float to the mentor rooms, and the people can come to the mentors' offices also to ask them questions. All right, well, that's the questions that we have for now. So I will hand that over to Jalai. I think he's already got his slides up. So go ahead, Jalai.
Yeah, I actually don't do slides. I've just got a live web browser up. So I'm on the Hackathon website. So hopefully everybody has had a chance to visit the Cancer Hackathon portal. I'm going to make a few comments today at this first informational session about technical readiness. So as both Amy and Jake mentioned, we're going to provide informatics and technical support through Ubright to the hackathon participants who wish to avail themselves of that. And so you can probably tell from the timeline and the different stages, there's different things we'd like for you to think about at different times. So at this early stage, as Jake mentioned early on, I think it's important to get your data set ready, right? So don't wait. These take time, especially if you want help from the Ubright technical support folks in locally caching and preparing these data. So if you scroll up here, you may notice some what I'll just call stubs, right? So we've just stubbed out potentially some of the things we can put in place, but these are actually just to get the ideas flowing, right? I think the teams, as you're forming, you need to go to the informational sessions and the project and the mentors and really get at the question you want to answer, and that'll help inform what data sets you really need. I suspect many teams may already have data sets, but some may need help. So the sooner you let us know about it, the better. Just so you use your imagination a little less, I'm just going to show you what we did last year for the COVID-19 hackathon. So same idea. Early on, we engaged different teams and what they wanted to see locally cached that might help them get off the ground. And so we actually ended up, Matt's going to talk about the the cancer clinical data cohorts, but we ended up locally caching various public COVID-19 omics and count and just different kinds of data, right? So the way you let us know what data you're interested or what tools you're interested in, so there's also a section on tools, is to go to the Airtable that was mentioned earlier. I think this link either has been shared in Slack or will be shared. And there's a table in here for you to come in and write down data sets you're interested in, write down analysis tools you're interested in, engage us in discussion in Slack. And I'll take a look, and Zandos, who's a colleague and helping with the Ubright technical support, we'll take a look at that and we'll see, what we can reasonably bring in. So I think that addresses maybe Tarun, that was your question in chat, what data sets are going to be available. Well, that's going to be driven by what you try to let us know is input the pieces of infrastructure that we want everybody to make use of is a local instance of GitLab. So this is at gitlab.rc.uab.edu. There is a Ubright namespace here, and this is where we've invited participants from past hackathons. So you can actually see this space has a lot of demo material, a lot of training material, but in addition to that, it's also got namespaces for hackathon teams to come in here after they form their teams, and the technical leads of their teams work very closely with the Ubright support team to make GitLab projects for their team to work together in code. And this is actually part of how we determine what your final submissions are, that you've made it by the deadline, because everything you put in version control, of course, is date stamped and time stamped. And so that's to help keep everything fair, since we are offering a cash prize. But as we move forward, you'll get invitations to register for accounts on different aspects of the Ubright infrastructure. We're actually going to do something like, if you participated in last year's hackathon or our first hackathon, we sent around what's called a hackathon readiness checklist. And I'm just going to skim through this real quick today. But you will be, if you've registered for this event, you'll get a chance to go through this checklist. This is something we send out 2 weeks ahead of time, and you can come in here and confirm you have the different accounts that that you might need access to, confirm that you've taken the basic training, make the attestations that Amy had mentioned earlier. And so I think for today, I'm going to stop for now. I don't know how much time I have, Amy, but I just wanted to give people a look at what we mean by technical readiness, and to be prepared at this early stage to be thinking about your teams, the data sets, mentors, and then moving forward, we'll be helping with training and infrastructure accounts and technical readiness checklists.
Yeah, thanks, Jalai. Actually, we do have a question that people just want to know what's Ubright. Can you explain that to me for someone who doesn't know anything about Ubright?
Sure. Actually, so for today, I'm just going to leave you a link to the website so you can go to ubright.org. And if you really, just want a quick introduction, you can go to our learning resources. And under the less than 30 minutes, if you like slides, you can browse overview slides. If you like videos, we've got YouTube videos that go through what Ubright is, how you access public data, how you engage the version control system. I notice we don't have our overview video up yet, so I'm going to work with the Ubright web team to get that up. But in the interim, I'll go ahead and put that in Slack. So that's just a 10-minute overview that kind of walks you through what Ubright is, and I think that'll help you understand what's available and what you can do within Ubright.
Can you just give an elevator pitch?
Yeah, sure. My elevator pitches, I need to practice to get them under, 30 seconds they want elevator pitches to be under. It's infrastructure that we've set up to help people do their translational science, right? So if you think about what are a lot of the big blockers for folks, it's siloed data, right? So you have data maybe at your notebook computer, siloed code, you have code that you're working on that you think is really great, but you're having trouble sharing it, right? So Ubright's all about kind of pre-positioning data, pre-positioning tools, positioning it in what we call a commons environment. So if you're not familiar with commons, it's the idea of co-locating your data, tools, and code where your biggest compute and storage are. So here at UAB, that's the Chiha supercomputer. And so this is just a path that if you don't know where to get started, to get to a place where you can actually do team science, right? Engage the rest of your team, not be able to have these low ceilings where you have a nice piece of code, but you immediately run into a bottleneck on your notebook computer, right? So starting by running on Chiha, where it's easy to share, easy to scale, those ideas. So I think I was more than 30 seconds, but probably less than a minute. But for moving forward, I think checking out those videos, and that will be part of the training material we'll send out.
That was good. I think anything else for you, Jaylai, or any other questions about technical readiness or our infrastructure? All right, well, if not, then we'll transition to Matt Wyatt, who will talk about the use of EHR, the UAB EHR as a data source. And in the meantime, examples of projects, I can show that a little bit later. We have things from the previous hackathon about the individual projects.
So Amy, will you share the slides?
Yeah, and you can just tell me when next slide. Let me get
okay. That sounds great. So in general, I know that there will likely be teams who bring their own data sets, who use externally generated data sets, molecular data sets, etc. But we do have a resource at UAB in electronic health record data. And if there is interest from any teams, we can provide data sets from our electronic health record. And we probably can't do 25 custom data sets for something like the hackathon, but we can certainly approach some generalizable data sets for people to use. And as long as we identify the need relatively early in this process, we can help folks with getting data sets for specific cohorts of patients within UAB. Generally speaking, if we identify a population of interest in the 3, 4, maybe even 5,000 patient range, we can provide full longitudinal data sets. So all of the structured electronic health record data for those cohorts. If we get larger cohorts than that, we may not be able to provide quote unquote all of the data, but we can certainly provide meaningful cohorts or meaningful data sets for larger cohorts. So it's just a balance between how many patients versus how long a time duration versus how many specific domains of data, et cetera. So I would encourage anyone who wants to approach using electronic health record data, if you are up for that challenge of using the raw EHR data as a data source, then start working on what you want that population to be and come to us as quickly as you can so that we can determine what those generalized cohorts are. Next. In general, what do we have in the EHR? So this is a snapshot as of a month or two ago, maybe 4 or 5, I don't know. We have about 1.5 million patients. We have about 20 million encounters, which are inpatient, outpatient, emergency, and other types of visits, virtual and physical visits to UAB Health System. We have about 7 billion distinct observations, and this is just these folders here just represent general domains of data that we have at our disposal. Hidden within there, those UAB clinical events, that is effectively all of this structured clinical data in the electronic health record. So all physician documentation, nursing documentation, ancillary documentation, anything on a flow sheet, anything on a form, a note, any structured data collected, including things like specific lab values, specific vital signs, specific measurements are included. Next. To give you a little bit of flavor for, next slide. To give you a little bit of flavor, oh, sorry. It just updated slow on my screen. The previous one, there you go. An example cohort, just so to give you a flavor on the volume of data and the detail that we would be talking about. We did 1 year worth of new cancer patients as represented in the reportable tumor registry. So that's not necessarily all cancers because not all cancers are reportable, but for 1 year, 2020's worth of new tumor registry reportable cancer cases, there were about 3,500 patients, and that represented a little over 100,000 encounters. And for specific clinical observations, there were over 22,000 unique concepts. I hesitate to call those things variables or fields, but if you're thinking about prospective data, those are 22,000 different types of observations. And so it was just over 40 million specific clinical observations for that 3,600 patients. And then for orders, things like orders for imaging, orders for really any other sort of clinical activity, consultations, et cetera, there were about 14,000 unique types of orders and about 5 million individual orders for those set of patients. So that's sort of the ballpark of what 1 year's worth of tumor registry data would include. And those come in the form of CSV files that we'll stage prior to the hackathon in the research computing workspaces close to Chiha for analysis. And each patient set would include demographic information, encounter information, and then some set of files that represent specific clinical observations associated with those.
All right, great. There's a couple of questions for Matt. What kind of details are included in patient social history?
The social history section of the electronic health record, if you're familiar with what that is, the answer to that question is all of it. If you're not familiar with what that is, there are sections for tobacco use, substance use, my mind is going blank. Those are two of the biggest ones. It is.
Yeah, I can also add to that, like someone's job, what kind of things they do. So things that might
Right.
be risk factors.
Right. There is some information about home resources, domestic abuse oriented questions, that sort of stuff. We also have patient data geocoded to census tracts. So we would have to determine whether or not we're allowed to provide that data as sort of de-identified. But there is potential that we could provide some level of data related to geography, but it would have to be extremely limited. That's often what we pair with social determinants oriented related data, so that people can use those publicly available geographically oriented data sets.
There's another question. So are you talking about I2B2 data or some other data?
This is data from our enterprise data warehouse at UAB, which is the source of data for I2B2. So if you're familiar with what's in I2B2, this is the same data source as behind that. So, yes.
Any final questions for Matt? We're on schedule, so we're in pretty good shape. So, so I'll stop this share, and there was a question about some previous projects. So I can pull up information about projects from the previous hackathon. In the meantime, if anybody else has any questions, comments, feel free to enter them in the chat, or you should also be able to unmute yourself. Actually, I'll also finish up my slide deck. So there's only a few slides left in which then we talk about what happens behind the scenes to have one of these hackathons become a great success. So there's a lot of planning and organization involved, a lot of pieces, technologies, and people especially. So we have a steering committee that we organize it and we decide what's going to happen, what our goals, and where we're going to, the rules, and how we're going to do it, and all the events. So then we have mentors who either can choose to mentor an individual team, or can serve as a resource for people to ask questions. We want people with different levels of expertise in different areas. So, if you want to serve as a mentor, or somebody, please suggest them and recruit them. Either at UAB or somewhere else. It could be faculty, staff. Also, we need judges, so we need people to evaluate the projects, and we use criteria similar to what they use for NIH grants. We want to encourage these kinds of collaborations. So once again, we can recruit these people. You can be a mentor and a judge, but you should not judge on a project that might have a conflict in, either your student or trainee or postdoc, or that you're mentoring very directly. Support. So we have a lot of support both from people spending their time and hours, and also we have sponsors who have donated for this effort. And then we're thankful for all our participants who are able to come and make this a big success. It's all about you. So within these areas, there's a lot of roles, and there's different things that need to be done to make sure that these things will be successful, and especially the communication, which is where people exchange their ideas and make sure that we're all on the same page, and announcements and resources and events. So So we're primarily using Slack for this, but for the individual communication, and the website for announcements and all the information about the teams, projects, events, and participants. And Zoom is, so Airtable is where a lot of this data is stored, but we do have links to it on our website. And then Zoom is where you would actually be doing the collaborative work and the talking and everything. And we have breakout rooms for that. And then you would save, you save data in Box, and we also use GitLab. And then this is our organizing committee as of today. That still may change, but we have people representing all the different areas: Informatics Institute, Precision Medicine, the CCTS, and also we have some people from outside of UAB as well, representing the data, infrastructure, messaging, and media. And so it takes a village. It really does take a village. And then also our sponsors. So they're very gracious in donating their time, people, and also financial for the awards, which will attract more people. So we get a good pool of people. So okay, so thank you for your attention. We do have some time for questions, and let me see what we have in the questions. And I also will. Okay, how do you judge the work of each team? Let's see. Okay, will we get an invite to the Slack channel? It says my UAB email is not registered. Heather, can you help with that?
Yes, I think we'll send if you've registered, we will send out an email to all the registrants with a link to register for the Slack. I believe there is a link on the website, but if it's not working, if you can email me, or I can reach out to you, and we'll see how we can get you access if it's not working through that link. But we'll also send out a link to all the registrants already, and put it on the website in several places as well.
Okay, there's a question about how to judge the work of each team. So, you know, we'll provide our rubrics and judgment criteria before the hackathon. You know, hopefully we'll have that ready pretty soon, and we'll also give that to the judges, and we'll have training for the judges on how to evaluate projects. We're following the model in the NIH grant review, so they look at the criteria. Significance, is this an important problem? And yes, cancer, but what is the potential for you know, the potential problem that your project is solving, and specifically, and then normally there would be the investigators, like looking at where you're from, do you have a good infrastructure? And we're saying we're all equal here, right? It's a hackathon, we're all coming here, and so we're not going to really look at that so much, and because we're not judging them for future funding, we're judging for work right now. And then your methods, which you know, I think that's going to be the bulk of what we're looking at, your methods. So how innovative this is, or how well are you applying these technologies, or how good is the technologies that you are developing. Using existing technologies in a different application is an innovation. And I can't even remember all the different NIH criteria, but then we look at overall impact. So it may not necessarily be a sum of all the other criteria, but we just look at overall impact. You know, given the significance of the problem, how it's going to be applied, the methods used, what's the likelihood that this project could have a great impact on health, on cancer. So yeah, I mean, as the rubrics come in, we'll have more. We'll post them, we'll make them publicly available, so we'll have more details about exactly how that would be calculated. So typically it's a scale from, it's a numerical scale, people rate it, and then we look at, and if there's a tie, then we have other ways to break those ties. So, and in addition to first, second, and third, we're also going to have some other awards, you know, that look at specific criteria. We're still working out the details of that. Okay, let's see, other question. Will this session be shared by email or website? It is being recorded, and there may have to be some editing of it. So yes, it will be put on the website. Okay, Heather put the link to join the Slack channel. Okay, does programming IT background, is that a prerequisite? It is absolutely not. You know, a lot of people and I'm a clinical person too, and I'm intimidated by all these technology people and these things that I might not understand yet. So that's why we're having this. We're envisioning this, that the training is actually first, the training goal, and then to solve the cancer problems using technology and using data, that's another goal. And then the networking and the team science is probably the other big goal. So we want people of different backgrounds to come together. We know that if you're a programming IT type person, that it's a very valuable skill to have, and it's limited in what it can accomplish until it's paired with the context of applications, researchers, clinical applicability, translational. So, you know, in the previous hackathon, so we always want to have at least one technical person per team, because we need someone to sort of take all the ideas and input and put them into practice. So absolutely, you don't have to have the background. And maybe this will be encouraging for if you want to learn more about that, because we're all lifelong learners. That's all the questions I see for now. So I was going to switch gears and show some of the previous projects that we've had. So let me just switch that. In the meantime, continue to put in your questions and comments. Okay, so this is the slideshow that I used for our previous hackathon for our closing ceremony. So we had 3 days, so we have more days this time. We had 3 days, one for a pre-hackathon boot camp and 2 for the hackathon itself. We had 38 participants. We had 10 teams and projects that officially entered the competition, and 9 steering committee members, 16 mentors, and 9 judges. And okay, so team 1, and it was so long ago that I don't even know if I can remember everything. Okay, team 1, they called it the game of COVID, and they actually applied game simulations to COVID to see how things might play out. And I couldn't tell you the exact details about that. And then they looked at different different visualizations to see how that might also play out. Team 2 was looking at regional distribution and migration and spread of cases to see, can they trace based on where people travel or where people gather. And it's nice to have the team and the people involved with the team while they're actively working on it. Team 3, and I have to admit, I'm not that familiar with all these, so somebody else could explain these better. So all of these involve, like, there's some way to use data that help us to learn more about COVID. Okay, so country level social determinants of health and COVID. So I think they're looking at, so this is what Matt had talked about before with the social history, with the co-located income. Census tracts tells you something about the income and how does that affect how much COVID we see. So we see this data was side by side with confirmed active deaths. So that this is some useful information to see, does your living situation affect your social economic status? Does that affect your risk for COVID? And just from my glance here, it looks like it does. Team 4 was looking at, and it's good to see some of the same people again, looking at various data in the EHR and trying to predict someone's risk of COVID based on that, like their risk of whether they would get it or how much what risk there would be to have a bad outcome. And so maybe that would predict that, hey, you're higher risk. You might want to be a little more, a little bit more alert and go more quickly to get tested if you notice symptoms, or maybe you should get tested. Team 5, looking at COVID pathways. This has to do with genetics, how various genetic abnormalities might increase your risk of COVID. And some of these projects were actually quite successful. And then this is another project from user query differential gene expression can validate drug targets for downstream drug reposition. So it's looking at if can certain genes predict certain drug targets, that would be good. And then team 6, network-based model for simulating the outbreak of COVID. Yeah, so it looks like distancing, how close you interact with someone to be able to predict how likely you are to get infected. And so that would model how that might play out. Predicting fatalities and spatial vulnerabilities due to COVID in the United States. Looking at vulnerable regions, and then looking at the level of COVID spread. Going from local patient sample to global strain source. So that's looking at genetic samples and trying to look at how that might relate to the different viral mutations and the different strains and the worldwide spread. And then team 12, I don't even know if I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of details for these, but the people were on during that time. So I think they all knew what each team was. So sorry, my slides don't necessarily have all the details. Data conversions to and from character. I think this had to do with demographics. How demographic data relates to COVID risk. It looks like people were all having a good time. And then we had our, we were showing everybody. Normally you had everybody come together. You take a big group photo. In this case, it was a big Zoom photo. So we wanted to still show that we were very much collaborating given the circumstances. And then we just surveyed people. We saw there was a good distribution of age, maybe the more junior trainees and maybe the more people who were faculty or people who've been practicing for a while. Is interesting bimodal distribution. We had males and females, so we had good diversity, we think, and we had decent diversity of ethnic background as well. We had originally only targeted UAB people, but then somehow, lo and behold, people came to us from outside of UAB, and we didn't want to turn anybody away. So there were more hoops to jump through to get people the right access to everything, but we wanted to accommodate people. And we even accommodated some people who started on the second day who were not present during the first day. Like, oops, I didn't find out about it, but I still want to help and get involved. So they're mostly students, which is our target, but we had some faculty, scientists, programmer analysts, and other people in other roles. And then people found out about the hackathon in many different ways. For the people outside of UAB, a lot of times that was word of mouth. Like somebody saw it and contacted somebody, and then somebody said, hey, all the people in my lab, you guys should do this. And different reasons to join, networking, learning, advancing their career, having fun, and addressing a crisis, and also the scientific aspect, developing research ideas, preparing for publication or grant submission. And then for many people, this was their first hackathon. So we wanted to really make it easy for people who didn't have that prior experience, that we really want to help increase the pool of people who would be doing these kinds of projects. And then some people said they weren't prepared at all or just a little prepared. So we were trying to take you wherever you were and just helping to optimize whatever you could accomplish in your group. People do feel like they made quite a bit of progress, and the length was just about right. And people like the networking aspect of it the most, solving a problem and learning about the tools and having fun. And we actually had the first hackathon that was in person, we actually had some social activities we did. We had a lot of problems with technical challenges, like lost internet connections, Zoom problems. So that was the worst, but and we can probably expect that given that we're all virtual. But, and we want to, and the whole sum it up, I think outstanding experience is what I'm seeing there. And that it was great. And I think I already showed these and suggestions for the future, which was good. And then we had awards. All right, so I'm going to stop the share. We're just about at the end of our time. We might have time for one more question. Let me see what we got here. Okay, yeah. So the last year's recorded presentations are available on the website. So thanks for that, JLI. And we will have another, in addition to this being recorded and posted, we do have one more session. It'll be a similar agenda, because we often get people who find out about it and join later. So we don't want to say, oh, well, you missed the beginning, so you can't join. So we want to do that. And even though I do recognize many of the people and names here, there are a lot of people who were not in the previous hackathon. So that I'm encouraged that there's all these new people. All right, well, If you have any further questions, you can always email us or enter them in the Slack. We're happy to answer questions. And if you get stuck or you don't know what to do, we have all our different experts in our different domains who want to help you and get you working as well as possible. So with that, if I don't see any other questions, Jake, you want to give us some closing remarks?
Well, I think there's a lot to digest, and this is really the beginning and it's not the end. So I would say that everyone, please use the online forum Slack channel, introduce yourself, and get the team started and have fun. And we'll be in touch almost every week throughout the next 6 to 8 weeks. Thank you.
Yep, thanks everyone. And we look forward to working with you and innovating together.